Hello, I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, and welcome to the live stream, Help for Toxic Relationships. I'm so glad that you're joining us tonight. We're going to talk about something that is just so common. People who leave their hijackal, their toxic person, maybe they have agonized over leaving for a long time. They leave and then they feel this great pull to go back. And maybe they do go back. Maybe they do go back repeatedly. And so it's important for us to talk about this. What is it that pulls us back? What are we hoping for? What are we thinking? How can we stop ourselves? How can we change this? How can we change this desire to go back? So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. And it's very important because the research shows that many people go back many times before they finally make the break. And I want to help you make that fewer times. Wouldn't that feel a whole lot better to just know that you had the strength to do it and to do it one time if possible? So I want to really look at this if you're preparing to leave or you have left and you still feel that pull to go back. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. That pull to go back and, oh, maybe it will work this time, or maybe it was me, or maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. All those things happen, right? And it goes through your mind the further you get away, and when you finally do it, it's all very exciting. You've got certain chemicals in your body. But then after you've been away for a few days, maybe a week or two, you start to have these doubts, these creeping in doubts that, have I done the right thing? Was it really as bad as I thought it was? Was there something I didn't do that I could have done or should have done? And all these things go running through your head. And then you start making a case for going backwards. I'm happy that you're here, and I'd love to have you say hello in the chat and tell me if you recognize this syndrome. Does this happen to you? Did it happen to you? Is it happening to you? That you know you need to get away, and you eventually get away, and then you're gone, and you start feeling this need to go back, or this desire to go back, or this deep missing of the very person who abused you. Have you been able to tell yourself clearly that it is abuse? Have you allowed yourself to say that word? Because so frequently that can really, really help you, is to be able to give it that name. It is abuse, whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, spiritual abuse, whatever kind, and it's usually more than one kind in that situation. It is abuse that you're leaving behind. And it's very important for you to call it that. Okay? That helps you when you have these moments when you want to go back and you start making a case for going back. So I'd love to know if you've had this experience so that I know to whom I'm talking tonight. And for those of you who are watching it a little later, think about it. How many times did you want to go back or go back once you have left? Or maybe you're preparing to leave and you're thinking, how will I manage? I have been with this person for so long. How will I manage? I really think I should. I really think I could. But if I get out there and you're thinking really already, you're thinking about not being able to sustain your decision. So, very important topic tonight. I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. You find me at transformingrelationship.com. And I'd love to have you come over to the website. If you're not familiar with my trademarked term for these relentlessly difficult, toxic people in life, I call them Hijackals. That's my term. And a hijackal is a person who hijacks a relationship for his or her own purposes and then relentlessly scavenges it for power, status, and control. And they may put a beautiful face on your relationship in public and then a really ugly, devaluing face on it in private. And so that's very confusing as well, because you really want to see that person who's out in public with you. You want to see that person at home, and they seldom show you that person, which is one of the reasons that you may have left or want to leave. And that's a very good reason, because why should you be treated poorly like that? You know, I remember my mother was a hijackal, and I remember saying to her when, I don't know, I was 40, and I said to her, you know, Mom, if I met you at a party, I wouldn't be trying to set up a lunch date with you. You're not the kind of person that I want to hang out with. And she kind of looked at me, and I said, no, there is nothing that's safe around being with you. So I certainly wouldn't be inviting that. Think about the person, the hijackal in your life. Knowing what you know about them now, if you met them, would you want to be with them? Likely not. So very important. Love to have you check in, say hello, let me know you're here. If you're returning, welcome back. If you're new, I'm delighted that you found us. So what is it that causes us to second guess ourselves when we leave? What is it that happens there? Well, the basis of this, one of the bases of this, is that we have some trauma bonding going on. And trauma bonding is a very natural kind of thing, because we want to attach ourselves to someone who's going to take care of us, who's going to look out for our best interest. And we primarily did that when we came into the world with our parents. So we bonded, hopefully, with our parents. If you had a hijackal parent, you won't have bonded with them in a helpful way. But that's where the attachment begins. And so then when we get with a difficult person, a hijackal or an abusive person, we have a bond to them too, that they are the person that we turn to for significant difficulties. When something goes wrong in our life, we naturally turn to them, as we did when we were a child and we turned to our parents. And that's what causes the problem, because survival is the foundation of this human attachment. So when safety is threatened, when there's some trauma that's occurring, we naturally turn to the one who's supposed to be the caregiver in our life. And that's where it gets very, very confusing when we're with a partner who is a hijackal, because we want to be able to turn to them, and we have this concept of who they are in our mind, which is the person that we met, the person that was just everything we wanted him or her to be. They seem to read our mind. They seem to know us so well. They seem to understand us completely. And they were the best thing that ever happened to us. And that's the love bombing stage. That's when they are doing their very best to bring us into their world and into their aura and convince us that we need to be with them. And then when the trauma begins, the bonding has already happened. So what happens in that bonding is we experience a release of oxytocin, and that's what's called the love hormone, and it's released into our brain, and then it comforts and creates more attachment to the caregiver, and that caregiver is often our significant other. So it all gets very confusing when you have a hijackal partner, because that's the person we're supposed to be able to turn to. And yet that's the very person who abuses us. Very, very difficult. So the trauma bond occurs when that person that we're looking for to take care of us threatens us with abusive behavior. And so we're hardwired to turn to that person, and yet that's the person that's hurting us. And we often do that with our parents as well. We're trauma bonded to hijackal parents. So that might have been something that you learned at an early age too, that this is very familiar to you when you get into a relationship with a hijackal when you are an adult. And so the trauma bond, you can read a lot about it, but the trauma bond it has a huge impact, and the danger of it is the impact that it has on us in our adult life. Is this making sense? Is that anything that happened to you? You know, one of the things that I find that many of my clients, and I have clients all over the world because I work through video conferencing, but many times they don't want to put the two together. Like, there's this mythical person that I love and is wonderful to me and loves me and I'm bonded to, and then that same person has this other face that is nasty and demeaning and devaluing and belittling and hurtful and passive aggressive and does all kinds of things that are basically emotionally abusive and maybe even goes on to be physical, sexual, financial abuse. It's very, very confusing. And so we run to that person because we're hoping for love, and then that person hits us, and then we run to them to comfort us. It's very confusing, right? And so this happens, and it becomes a pattern. And that's one of the things that we have to do. We have to be able to speak the truth when it happens. We have to be able to get out of our fantasy world and say, no, the truth is, this person is mean to me, this person is demeaning to me, this person dismisses me, this person puts me down in front of others, this person is two-faced to the children and to me. You have to remind yourself of the things that a hijackal does in reality, not in our fantasy, not in the way we wish it were or what we hoped for, but what is actually happening. And that's difficult because we don't want to accept that it's happening because we chose this person and they chose us. And so we're kind of hooked on hope that that person who love bombed us in the beginning is going to return if only we turn ourselves into a pretzel or a doormat. And I want you to be really clear, and I've said this on other live streams, that person who love bombed you is only going to show up when they really, really want something and they're afraid you're not going to give it to them. They don't exist. It's an act. And when you can really get your head around the fact that that person does not really exist, that you love the idea of that fantasy person who love bombs you, but that is not who your partner is, or if it's a parent, that's not who your parent is, or your sibling, or your boss, or whomever the hijackal is in your life. When they are good and when they are nice, they want something, or they're putting on a show for the public. But you know very well that in private, they're creating a place of pain. And so you have to keep yourself in reality, not in the fantasy of what you wish it were. And we have to acknowledge exactly what we're going through. And we may need to say it out loud. No, I remember when these things happened. Do I want those things to happen again? No, I don't want them to happen again. Do I want my children to see that? No, I don't want my children to see that. Those are the reasons that I left. Why would I go back? But the brain wants to play tricks on us because it wants that hit of oxytocin. And so we fantasize that if I go back, maybe I can make it better. Maybe it wasn't so terrible. And what we've learned is that the positive behaviors actually enable the abusive behaviors to continue. And they'll escalate. And then that's what makes it so hard to honor the impulse to leave, because we want that feeling of attachment. Now, from a scientific point of view, we've got 4, and I wrote them down here. We have 4 chemicals that our body creates that don't help this situation at all. And our addiction to another person, and I'll read this to you, a few important ingredients that contribute to someone's addiction to their abuser are oxytocin from the bonding, endogenous opioids, which is the pleasure, pain, withdrawal, and dependence, then corticotropin releasing factors, which is withdrawal and stress, and dopamine, which is the craving, seeking, and wanting hormone. And with such strong neurochemistry in dysregulated states, it's extremely difficult to manage our emotions and make logical decisions. So we are this flood of chemicals when we're in this state. And the attachment makes us want to have that oxytocin, that bonding. This will be really good. And then we also like the other things that work in our brain. And we don't recognize the toxicity. We want the feeling. And so when we have this trauma bonding, we get what's called cognitive dissonance. Are you familiar with that term? Anybody familiar with that term? Because cognitive dissonance is when we're trying to hold on to two opposing beliefs. So we're thinking this is true and we're thinking this is true. And when our brain attempts to make sense out of the conflicting information, we start reasoning and rationalizing, and it all gets really muddled up. And we can't see which one is which clearly. And so that happens, and resolving it requires self-regulation, and we need to calm ourselves down. And so in that situation, we have to be able to have positive self-talk, calm ourselves down, do something. So let's see, we got some chat here. Luna's mom, hello, welcome. This is the first time I've seen you write anything, so welcome to the live stream. Her question is, how do you deal when you want to go back so bad and they are ignoring you? I want to end my life. Well, I hope you won't end your life. I really do, because let me tell you, that person is not worth it. You are worth so much more than that person and their bad behavior. So what you're giving us, Luna's mom, is an example of true trauma bonding. Your words are, how do you deal when you want to go back so bad and they are ignoring you? Okay, this person is ignoring you because they know that they will increase your desire to bond with them. So the more they ignore you, the more it brings you to that place of wanting the oxytocin fix. And there's a reason that you left, right? You did not want to be with that person. You did not want to feel the way you felt. You did not want to be emotionally abused. You did not want to be spoken to in that way. Perhaps you were even hit or hurt or choked or in some way physically hurt. Or maybe the person was sexually demanding and had no respect for you at all. Just used you and abused you. You have to remember that you deserve way more than that. And the Hijackal has worked really, really hard to make you believe that you don't. Does that ring true for you? The Hijackal has repeatedly told you that you are worthless. Nobody else would want you, that you're lucky they put up with you. They've told you all kinds of horrible things that are not true. They are not true. They are what we call projection. They are what the Hijackal fears is true about them. They tell you is true about you. And it is all about the Hijackal, and it's not about you. So very important. I know you have that draw to go back because you're bonded to that person that you hope loves you. And that is such a clear, clear sign when the Hijackal ignores you and knows, there's a reason we have that phrase. He wants you, he or she, I don't know who it is, but he or she wants you to crawl on your belly like a snake and demean you and make you do anything in order to get them back. And then they will dismiss you and discard you and devalue you as quickly as possible and re-wound you. So there is that deep part in you. Luna's mom, is it possible that you had a mother or a father who treated you this way? Maybe not as seriously, badly, but treated you in this way? That wasn't there for you, that played with your emotions, that only liked you when you were useful to them, and the rest of the time they didn't? Because it's very, very common for us to have had a pattern in our young life like that happened to us before our brain was fully developed. And then we end up in a relationship very similar to it as an adult, and we're really running on that old programming. We don't think that we don't like it, but we don't think that it should be different because it's somehow familiar to us. And then when the hijackal behaves more and more badly, we start to think, well, there must be something wrong with me. And the hijackal very readily will tell you, yes, there's something wrong with you. So Luna's mom said, I had great parents. Great. So go back and think about that. Did your parents treat you the way this person does? If not, then it will be a little easier for you to see the difference between the nurturing, attachment, safe place your parents created and the unsafe place the hijackal is creating. And then you have to use your brain at those moments when your body wants to lean in and go running back and say, no, it is unsafe. I can remember home was safe. This is unsafe. Home is a place where you are safe, where people care about you, where people nurture you, where people accept you and love you. And this house that I was in with this person is a scary place where I have to be hyper-vigilant, always on my best behavior, and never can get it right, and everything is my fault. Very, very different. Which one is healthy? In your case, home. And so this is the difference that you can begin to hold in your mind. No, it doesn't feel like home. He treats me like a queen, and then wham, he goes distant, disappears, blames all his problems on me, everything is my fault, I catch him in lies and it's all my fault. This is classic hijackal. This person has a problem. This person has a big problem. People who behave like that are hijackals. And the reason that I created the term is so that we don't have to go off. I don't have to know if this person is a narcissist or a psychopath or a histrionic or a sociopath or any kind of antisocial behavior. He doesn't need a diagnosis. The fact is that he behaves like a hijackal, and they are predictable. So he has got you caught in an abuse cycle. Do you see that? That emotional and verbal abuse that you say has ruined you, he's the one who created that. Let me ask you another big question, Luna's mom. Did he isolate you from your family? Has he taken you to live somewhere that you're not close to people who love you? Because that's something that hijackals do so often. They want to isolate you so you're dependent on them for your emotional needs and every other kind of need. And when they do that, it creates such a difficult place. So Megan May, hi. And she said, I'm sorry you're in pain. It works better for me when I consider that he was dead to me rather than I wanted to end me. Yes, a good idea. Let him be dead to you as opposed to you considering that he needs a place in your life or your life isn't worth it. Absolutely. He is the problem, not you. You can't get away from this person. And sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes they are very abusive. Sometimes they stalk. Sometimes they do all kinds of things. I know it's difficult because I have clients in so many situations. And sometimes it's unsafe. And I want to acknowledge that. Sometimes you feel very unsafe. But there are ways to find safety. And you need to find that. And if you want to talk to me about it, you can go to beaclient.com. Beaclient.com, and we can talk. Luna's mom said, I was the one who told others not to put up with being treated like this, and here I am. And he beats me down until I want to hurt myself. Yes, and please, please, please don't add to it by beating yourself up. Okay, don't become like him. Don't get on your own case. Don't even think like, why am I putting up with this? You're not. You're out of it. So remember why you got out of it. Remember why it was so appealing to not have this happening to you anymore, and stay with that because it was a vote for yourself. It was a vote for your well-being and your health in every way, and you were strong enough to take those steps. And remember that about yourself. Affirm that to yourself. No, I have been able to get out of this, and I do not want to be treated in any less than a loving, respectful way. I want to be safe, and I will keep myself safe. And I really hope you will keep yourself safe, because you matter. You matter. And treat yourself as though you do. No hijackal will treat you as though you matter. I bet everybody on this call and everybody who ever listens to it will say, no, hijackals don't treat you as though you matter unless they want something from you desperately, and then they'll only treat you as though you matter for a hot minute. But when you get on your team, you've already started because you're out of the relationship. When you get really on your team and treat yourself as though you matter, that's going to be the turning point for you. Can you believe that? It really will. And Luna's mom said, thank goodness I didn't live with him. Yes, yes. And now you don't want any interaction with him. None at all. You be the one who ignores him. Don't go running after him, hurting because he's ignoring you. That's exactly what he wants. You start ignoring him. Just watch what'll happen. And when he comes to you, no contact. No, he's done. He's toast. He's finished. He's out of here. Can you do that? I really hope you can. I really hope you can make that turnaround that, no, I'm going to ignore him. And Megan May said, I got to the point where the love bombing would cause so much anxiety for me because I knew it was fleeting and temporary. Yes, that's so painful, isn't it? You're getting exactly what you always wanted from this person, and you know it's not real. You know in your deepest heart it's not real, but it's exactly what you wanted to feel and hear, and that you know it's going to go away, and when it goes away, things are going to be even worse than they were before. I'm sorry that happened to you too, Megan. It's so difficult, and it happens in all hijackal cases. It's just one of the hallmarks of hijackals. It's nasty, it's chaotic, it's hurtful, it's demeaning, all those things. You know, that's lovely. Luna's mom said, Megan, I'm so sorry. I don't wish this on anyone. Me neither. You know, I had hijackal parents. Of course I married a hijackal. I attracted hijackals like bees to honey, I'll tell you. And that's why after I got my PhD, I really dove into all this to help myself and to help others, because back then there wasn't any help. Nobody was talking about this kind of thing at all. And so I really needed to figure this all out for myself and then to write about it. You know, I've written books about it. You know that I have a YouTube channel because you're on it. I hope that you'll subscribe down below and hit the little bell beside it so you get notifications when there's a new video for you. And then I have 2 podcasts. So wherever you like to get podcasts, I have a podcast called Emotional Savvy, the Relationship Help Show. And I have a podcast called Save Your Sanity, Help for Toxic Relationships. And if you don't have a place you like to get podcasts, you can go and listen on my website. Just go to relationshiphelpnetwork.com and you'll find everything right there on my website. So Luna's mom said, I have hurt myself. I've hit myself so hard that I have given myself black eyes. Then I think I really am crazy. It's so out of my character. No, you're not crazy. You're hurt and you're hurting. And you want the pain to stop. And after a certain point, all logic goes out the window. And that's what you're describing. But you're here and you're talking with us and you're telling the truth. And I so admire the fact that you're willing to say, here are the feelings that I'm having. I don't like them. I see them, but I can give them a name and I don't want to get stuck in them. And I hope that we can help you not get stuck there. It is not your fault. You were preyed upon. Hijackals are predators. They find you, they hone in on you, they work you over, they do everything they can to get you, and then they become possessive and jealous and distant and nasty, and they play with your emotions, and they try to take absolute control over you. And here you are, this loving, empathetic person who says, oh, if only I'm more patient, more kind, more compassionate, if I compromise more, if I don't nag, if I don't ask for too much, maybe then everything will be fine. And you do everything you can think of to make them happy, and it is never, 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 never enough. Because if it were enough, they wouldn't have control over you anymore. So it sounds, Luna's mom, like it would be really, really good for you to have some help. To, come along, go to beaclient.com, have that initial consultation. Let me give you some help, because every situation is a little bit different. And you've gotten confused now. Your emotions have become confused, and we need to sort that out so that you can give back all of that horrible abuse to that person. Know that they own it. You don't own it. That's their stuff, not your stuff. And nothing that the hijackal says is your fault is your fault. I can guarantee that. Yeah, sure, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But yes, they're going to tell you everything is your fault, because they never, ever take responsibility for their behavior. Never, ever. It's always somebody else's fault. Even if it's bad weather or the IRS, it's not their fault. And so after a while, we get really, really confused. And that's when we need to get some help. And that's why I'm, reaching out and saying, come on, let me help you, because you need clarity around that. Megan May said, for me, sometimes it helps to act on my own behalf as if I'm acting for a best friend or my own child as myself. Really good thought, Megan. Sometimes I used to have to say to myself, before I did all this work and was working on all of this, I would say, what would I say to a client, right? Something would be happening to me and I'd say, well, what would you say to a client? And that would turn me around. And just like you're saying, Megan, you say, well, what would I do for my best friend, or what would I say to my best friend? And Luna's mom, what would you tell somebody if they came to you and said, I'm in this state, here's what I'm thinking of? I think you'd have some good advice for them, wouldn't you? Yeah, you do need help. You do everything in your power to be there. Hi, Leni. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. And I'm happy to help you. Also, for people who are not ready to work with me directly, I do have a membership program. You can find it at optimizecircles.com. Here, I'll put it in the chat so that you have it. And it works like Facebook, but it's completely on my website so that you don't have to worry about anybody ever seeing it. So I have that membership site for you, and you can go there, or you can go to beaclient.com and have that first consultation for $97 and get some clarity around what your next best steps are. And yes, you did everything in your power to please him. Yes. You turn yourself inside out, right? You do. You stand on your head and spit wooden nickels for decades, and it will never be enough for them, because they must demand that you do more. They must have control over you. And the only time they'll tell you that you please them is when they want something. And I think probably you've all had that experience. So, I've been talking about this trauma bond, and how do you overcome this trauma bond? I want to just say a little bit about that, because I've written some notes here. It's very worthwhile to take the steps to overcome the trauma bond. And I know that overcoming it is easier said than done, but it is entirely possible, and you matter. You deserve to overcome this trauma bond. And so we have to keep ourselves in that realistic place that I was mentioning a little bit earlier. Is we can't compromise truth for the promise of something better. We've got to refuse to fantasize about how the partner might change one day, or maybe it's my fault, or No, you have to stay grounded in the evidence of your partner's behavior. Like, yes, that's what he or she did. That's what he or she said, and they do it often. And yes, we want to say, oh, well, they're not always like that. Sometimes they're wonderful. They're only wonderful when they want something or they're showing off for somebody else. True hijackals don't have wonderful moments just because they're wonderful people. They have wonderful moments because they're getting supplies somewhere else and they're not looking to you for something. They have wonderful moments because they want something from you and they're doing a setup to make you happy to give it to them. That's how that works. And I know it's awful. I had a client the other day and she was saying, I don't want to think about my mother being a hijackal. I don't want to think about that. She said, I've read your books and I've listened to your podcasts and I've watched your YouTube channel and I really, really don't want to think that my mother is a hijackal. So we're working together and last time she said, I think I'm beginning to see that my mother is a hijackal. Well, we don't want to see it. We don't want to think that because we're good people. We don't want to believe that. Luna's mom said, did you ever want to hurt yourself, Dr. Rhoberta? No, I was not in that situation. I was always the one who would just throw them out. So I wouldn't put up with that behavior at all. But I certainly attracted them. And yes, I was hurt by them. I had one who helped me get a broken ankle. He didn't break my ankle, but he set up the situation for it. I had another who would run after me with a butcher knife. I had one who would smash wine glasses at my feet. And some of those are the same person. So I have had physical violence in my life, but no, I never wanted to hurt myself because I know that I matter. And I had hijackal parents, and somehow I was just blessed to know that they're not normal and they're not behaving well. I'm on my own in this life. But I surely understand from working with so many people over the last 35 years how it feels. And I've teetered on the edge of some of those places. So that's my response to you. So these things are very important. And when we have this decades-long process with a partner who behaves abusively, just because they stop behaving abusively for a few minutes doesn't mean that they have changed. Thank you. Luna's mom said, I'm thankful you didn't have those feelings. Me too. But I really hope that you can move from even a suggestion of those feelings to saying, no, I matter. I deserve to take up space and draw breath. I deserve to be in a relationship where there is honesty, safety, trust, respect, and reliability. I wrote a book called Kaizen for Couples. And it was right here at hand. There it is. Kaizen for Couples, here it is. And in there I talk about that the hallmarks of a healthy relationship are the relational gifts. And the relational gifts are, you must have them within yourself, for yourself, before you can give them to someone else. So we have to work on those relational gifts. And those are honesty, safety, trust, respect, and reliability. Honesty, safety, trust, respect, and reliability for ourselves. Because they certainly haven't been coming towards us in a hijackal relationship. And if we don't have it within ourselves, we can't give it, because we can't give a gift we don't have, can we? So when we get away from a hijackal, when we have decided to leave that behind, then we have to do our own work. I had someone the other day say, I got away from the hijackal, I can hardly wait to date. And I was, no, please do not date for a year. They will, no, I want a relationship. In a year. You need to do your own work. You need to come to be your own best friend. You need to be playing on your own team. You need some time that is less stress. You're going to have to deal with a hijackal. There's going to be stress. So you need to have someone to walk with you. I often walk with my clients right through the whole court process until they have rebuilt their lives, because it's a step by step and you need someone who can be a guide on the side. But you need to be playing on your own team, right? So it's very important for you to take time to rebuild and work on your life and say, why did I allow this behavior? Let me figure that out. That's where you need the help. That's where you need the help from a trained mental health professional. You know, not someone who just got out of an abusive relationship. That's support. But the real healing that you can do needs somebody to be that person who can help you with it. So Luna's mom said, my guy, ex, whatever he is, isn't physically abusive, very verbal and emotionally abusive. Well, good. I'm glad he's smart enough to keep his hands off you. That's great. But he doesn't get any points for being emotionally abusive or verbally abusive. That's a sign of a very weak man. Imagine how weak he must feel inside to behave like that. If you can really get in touch with that this is a shadow of a person wanting to project a great big shadow, and inside he feels really small. So he wants to appear powerful and large. So he throws his weight around and he says what he wants to say and he puts you down and he controls things. And it's just him trying to prove that he's worth something, that he who should be obeyed, you know? It's all a problem. I could talk about that for a long time, but tonight we're talking about this trauma bond of wanting to go back because we're hooked into thinking that maybe we can change them. Maybe we can be the person who loves them enough. How many times have I had somebody say to me, oh, but he or she had a terrible childhood and I just need to love them until they love themselves. No, it doesn't work like that with hijackals. They're going, ooh, I got a live one here. They're going to give me everything that I want. I can get anything I want from this person because they want to help me. Right? So difficult. And Megan May said, it never dawned on me to turn the same questions on him that he asked of me when he blamed and criticized me. Mine was psychological, verbal, emotional abuse. Yeah. You know, while they're telling us that we're awful and useless and terrible and who would want us, you know, they're pretty awful and terrible and useless and who would want them? So we got to get our head on straight about that. We got to get rid of this trauma bond, this desire to go to the abuser, because abusers do this other really tricky, nasty thing. They abuse you. This is the trauma bonding thing, but it's in another context. They abuse you, and then they flip over and they want to be your hero. Oh, I'm so sorry I hurt you. Let me comfort you. What can I do for you? And then that's very confusing. In fact, crazy making, because you don't know what to believe. You know what you want to believe, but then there's evidence in reality that it's not true. And Luna's mom said, yes, me too. Psychological, verbal, emotional abuse. Do you honestly think there's anyone in the world who deserves verbal abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, spiritual abuse, sexual abuse? No, there really isn't. However, the people who are perpetrating it would be those most likely to deserve it. But we don't behave that way because we're not that way disordered. We don't think that way. We don't have that need to control other human beings, but we do have a need to keep ourselves safe. Now, before we go on, we run out of time tonight. I want to make sure that you have your questions answered. But I wanted to give you this list of things just to finish my little bit up here about the traumatic bond symptoms. I just want to read you this little list. If you've ever been looking for a book that's not mine, I hope you read mine, but lots of wonderful books around. And this one comes from the author of the book, The Betrayal Bond, and his name is Patrick J. Carnes, and he gave this list of how you can understand the traumatic bond symptoms. And he says, you're obsessing about people who have hurt you even though they're not around. You're continuing to seek contact with people who you know will cause you further pain. You're going overboard to help people who have been destructive to you. You're continuing to be a team player when obviously things are becoming destructive. Any of these making sense? You're continuing attempts to get people to like you even though they're clearly using you. That's a big one. Trusting people again and again who prove and have already proven to you they're unreliable, giving them chance after chance. Being unable to retreat from unhealthy relationships. Wanting to be understood by those who clearly don't care. Wow, yes. Choosing to stay in conflict with others though it would cost you nothing to walk away. Persisting in trying to convince people there is a problem and they won't listen. Remaining loyal to people who have betrayed you. That's huge. It's a big sign. If you are loyal to people who have betrayed you or hurt you or are hurting you, you need to have a really square-on look at that one because that's not good. Being attracted to untrustworthy people over and over. Being forced to keep damaging secrets about exploitation or abuse. And the last one is maintaining contact with an abuser who does not acknowledge their responsibility in the abuse. Those are the symptoms of being in a trauma bond. And that's what makes you want to go back. That's where the pull comes from. That's you imagining and fantasizing that it could be different if you went back. This time it will be different. You know that everybody talks about this thing that Einstein said, that the definition of insanity is doing the same things and hoping the result will be different. Well, they haven't changed, so the result is not going to be any different. So much as you may not want to believe that, I hope you will. This person is not going to change. Megan said, oh, Luna's mom, I just don't understand why I want him. I really don't. Now he's discarded me and I'm going crazy. Well, there are lots of reasons for that, and we can unearth them when we talk about it. It's very common, unfortunately, very common. You know, we often want what we can't have, and when they make themselves unavailable, we want them more, right? Ever been on a diet? You're not having ice cream for a month, and what do you want? Only ice cream, right? So that's important. Megan May said, I was so busy defending myself all the time I couldn't think straight. That's where they want you. They want you confused and chaotic, and they'll do everything they can to create uncertainty, to keep that chaos and confusion. They do it all the time. Luna's mom said, all of them make sense. I start to believe that I'm horrible. That's when they've got you, is when they tell you how bad you are and you start believing them. And that's the moment when you have to take a deep breath and say, no, there are lots of people who love me, lots of people who find good things within me. I see good things within me. Even if right now you're not feeling it, get into your mind and remind yourself, I am a good person. I have loving relationships. I can support relationships that are healthy. Remind yourself of those things. Do not let a hijackal define you. I know that that's easy for me to say, but you must claw your way back from believing that a hijackal knows who you are. They don't. They only see you as prey, and they are colossal predators. So mine said all he ever wanted to do was love me, but I destroyed that. Not. Yeah, not indeed, Megan. No, he didn't ever want to do was love me. What he wanted to do was use you. Hijackals don't have love to give you. They have uses for you. And they confuse those words all the time, I love you, when he really means, I want to use you. Okay? And that's a harsh reality. That is the harsh reality. And Megan said, and in the end, mine said, no one will ever love me like he loved me. I certainly hope not, too. I mean, I hope that you just see all those red flags and keep them very brightly in front of you so that anybody who behaves even remotely like that guy is toast immediately. Err on the side of the possibility you're making a mistake. But if they start showing signs, do not give people a lot of latitude, especially in the beginning, because you need to feel like you can count on your gut. So you make a mistake or two. If there's a really great guy that you ditch, that really great guy will come back again. Don't worry about it. So these are really important things, and these are the reasons that we feel drawn back. We're hoping that we can fix something. We're hoping that we're wrong about it. We're hoping they're wrong about us. We're hoping that they will see the error of their ways. We're hoping that they will feel sorry. They don't feel sorry. The only time they feel sorry is when you are not giving them what they want anymore. So for those of you who have the opportunity, go no contact right away. I know. You want to peek, you want to look at their social media, you want to see if they're on Facebook and what they're doing. They're not worthy of your time. That's the part of you that is wanting to hurt yourself. You want to look and see, oh yeah, they're having a good time and I am going through all this pain. And then you hurt yourself again. It hurts you emotionally to see that. No, just be strong and say, no more. And I don't mean, and please, not for 1 minute do I mean that it's simple or easy when I say just be strong. It is hard. It is something you need support for. You need friends who believe you, that you're not having to convince about all this. That's why I have optimized circles, so that you're with people who understand what we're talking about at all times. And you're safely off social media. So you don't have to worry about somebody creating a false account and going in there to see what you're saying. That's why I created it. OptimizedCircles.com. It's $5 a month. Don't panic. But I'm in there all the time answering people's questions, and there are different threads and things. So I try so hard, but can't. Oh, you're going to write something else, I think, Luna's mom. You try so hard, but can't what? Let me know what that is, because I know it's important. So any questions? Doesn't have to be about what we're talking about. Any questions before we end this session tonight? Because this is a great opportunity to ask me, and I will answer to the best of my ability if you have a question. A great analogy, the diet. Okay, good. Hold on to that one, Megan, because that can help. Just remember, you're not having carbs this month. You're not having hijackals this month, okay? And it's best for your health and best for your well-being and best for your long-term care. So that's an important thing to do. Really good. So Luna's mom, I can't go no contact. Oh, I try so hard, but I can't go no contact. I try to contact him and he ignores me. Okay, you know the answer, don't you? Stop trying to contact him. You're giving him all the power. He has the power to ignore you. He has the power to say no. You're setting yourself up for that pain, and I highly encourage you not to do that. Come from that place of, I don't care what's going on with him. I need all my attention now. I need to work on me. I need to build myself back up. I need to believe in myself. I don't need to be asking that fellow over there who discards me, devalues me, diminishes me, discounts me. I don't need to give him another opportunity to do it. No, I refuse to contact him. And when he contacts me, I'm going to refuse to answer. And I will be in my power then, because who wants a hijackal? No. When you're in your rational mind and you're not longing for a hormone fix like oxytocin, you will be able to say, no, I deserve so much better. I am not who he says I am. I am not to blame for everything. Then he said, I joined Optimized Circles last week after Monday's episode, and I'm looking forward to learning more about how to help myself and break the trauma bond that I know I feel with my ex. Great. Jump in there. Ask questions. Get support from other members. I'm in there all the time. I will chime in too. Also, there's a section in Optimized Circles that's called Notes from Dr. Shaler, and there I put anything new I write, any new videos that I do, so you get them very first. So that's there. And I really appreciate that you showed up tonight, because it means you really want to know how not to go back. And that's a very big positive understanding. I hope I've given you some things that will help you understand why it happens like that and why you want to be the one who says no more, no contact, don't care. I'm working on myself. I'm giving myself love. I'm affirming myself as a worthwhile human being, deserving of honesty, safety, trust, respect, and reliability. Go grab a copy of my book, Kaizen for Couples, if you need to remember those things. If you need good communication skills to work on yourself, do that. And Luna's mom says, thank you. I do not want to go back, but I do. I know. There is that pull all the time. But err on the side of yourself. No, there's a part of me, my body wants to go back. My head knows better. And my head's in the driver's seat right now. I have to count on my mind to know better and not go. To know what is best for me and not go back, not care. Do not contact him. Do not answer if he contacts you. Stop it. And you're right. I'm so glad you're not living with him and never did. This will make it so much easier for you to stop all of that. And I hope you'll get some help. So thank you so much for being with me tonight. I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. You find me at transformingrelationship.com. Find the podcast Emotional Savvy or Save Your Sanity, and you'll find them on my website. You can just go to transformingrelationship.com and you'll find everything there, because you can click on the podcast, you can click on the videos, you can click on all of that. So I'll be back here next week. Next week I'm going to be talking about something so important. We're going to talk about intimate terrorism. Intimate terrorism. It's a thing. And we're going to be talking about that. And until then, I hope you will treat yourself really well. You're precious. You matter. Lift yourself up. Love yourself. Do things that cause you to have less stress. And take every opportunity to improve your health. I care about you, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Good night.